Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the first event of the 2026 season in the NASCAR Cup Series is finally upon us, as we're hoping to have red-hot betting cards and a really chilly clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. We've got new giveaways, we've got new models, we've got new contributors, and we've got a new intro. Why don't you come on down the back road with us and see?
I don't drive a Monte Carlo, and my truck ain't painted black. It ain't got a big white number 3 turning left around the track.
Die-casting NASCAR fans out there. Let's go!
What's going on, everybody? This is the Backroad. It's In Between Media's NASCAR betting show. My name's Elliot Hicks, and with me, the newest member of the In Between family, so to speak. Man, I totally forgot to check with you to make sure I got your last name right, but Chris Collichio is now a featured contributor here on the Backroad.
Yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it. And that background is, or that intro is awesome. I love the intro that Seth put together. That's so cool. It really gets you pumped up for the season.
Yeah, man, it's a solid intro, solid song there. We'll have to have Seth remind us next time he's on who the artist is. Great song, great vibes, great everything, and really appreciative of being able to get that done for the new season. 2026 finally upon us here. And yeah, we got the clash at the Bowman Gray Stadium back for a second year, as long as the weather cooperates. Chris, I know you got plans to go there this weekend. Fingers crossed everything's all right. Sounds like the weather is kind of, will she or won't she this weekend?
Yeah. So I live just south of Charlotte, so we're about an hour and a half south of Winston-Salem, where Bowman Gray is located. I can tell you that as of current, Charlotte is projected to get like 3 to 5 inches on Saturday. I saw Bob just put out a tweet that apparently Winston-Salem was projected for 6 inches of snow. I don't know if that's true or not. But yeah, it's truthfully, I mean, Elliot, we were just talking about before the show. I'm not feeling very confident that we're going to get this race in on Sunday. I have a feeling it's going to be a Monday race, but we'll see. I mean, regardless, I just hope we get cars on track. I mean, bias, I would love to be there on Sunday because I won't be able to go if it's on Monday. But yeah, I just really want to see cars on track, whatever that is.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun event if it's able to happen. Of course, last year was a great time, Chase Elliott getting the win there. And this year, as much as I would love to see these cars throwing snow tires, and I think the next gens could probably bowl through an inch or two, the weather we'll have to wait and see. Of course, a couple of years ago, we had the clash moved on Saturday afternoon to Saturday night because it was going to be a monsoon in LA. So even moving away from California, we're still getting these weather things. So regardless of when the clash is, that just gives you guys even more reason to get on the numbers now while they're still up. If we move it a couple of days, probably going to see some numbers get taken down. Appreciative of the books that have markets out. It's not nearly as extended yet here as we sit on Wednesday night as obviously the Daytona books or books for a normal race would be. But we're going to have a good time anyway. The show's going to start tonight with our Fast Lap news segment. We'll discuss the latest happenings in and around the sport, including a schedule change for 2026 that's really important for our betting cards when we get into the fall. In our Horizon Forecast, we'll break down Bowman Gray Stadium, and we'll break down, Chris, your new additions to our betting model, which has been expanded this year, bringing you on. Of course, you and your colleague Ian were on the Flag Hunting podcast previously, and now part of the In Between family as well, as I mentioned, featured contributor this year. Occasional pinch hitter on the back road like tonight. But definitely one of the best numbers guys in the business. So after we go through all that, we will shout out our parking garage props, our best bets for the second clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. That's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a real fun show tonight. And we always have a lot of fun over in the IBT Racing family. It's our exclusive Discord group that now expands all of our big four here at In Between. The free tier, you can join the conversation with our viewers and analysts and get entry into our memorabilia giveaways, which I have one to tell you about in a minute. That is a free tier across all four: racing, football, entertainment, and golf, that I'll flip through in a minute. In the racing family, the paid tier, that $3.99 a month or $36 for the year, that is $1 per points race, and you get the Clash and the All-Star race for free. So definitely well worth it in our opinion. You get access to that expanded betting model now that is coming out this year. You get Seth and I's full cards each week and entry into the head-to-head matchups contest, which we'll be able to tell you about soon. On the football side, of course, the Super Bowl coming up in a couple of weeks, free memorabilia giveaways, and joining the conversation over there. You get the betting cards and touchdown contests there. Same old in the entertainment family. Survivor 50 coming up, going to be a fun time. You got a little contest going on in there. And on the golf side, too, our guy Jake doing great work over there. And your colleague Ian as well that I mentioned, the other half of the flag hunting pod, going to do some golf work as well. All really exciting stuff, just like our newest giveaway here. First diecast giveaway of the year, an autographed Shane Van Gisbergen WeatherTech Chevrolet 124th scale from 2024. So you're not getting the Trackhouse car, but hey, we do what we can here at In Between. You still get a nice little autographed SVG. That's going to be given away to one of the members in our chat, I believe after the Daytona 500. Again, now all the giveaways used to be with me. They're now with Seth, so it's kind of on his schedule too. But yeah, we'll be giving that away. You can join now. The link is right there in-betweenmedia.com/chat. The links to all the fun in the episode description as well. Want to shout out our live viewers here on YouTube. We had our guy Marcus, world's biggest Christopher Bell fan, jumping in, saying hello. Comment your picks, comment your best bets, comment your opinions on our bets. We definitely enjoy it, whether you're here watching live or watching on the replay later. Maybe the Clash gets moved and you want something to watch. You're going to throw in your extra bets there. Marcus, of course, predicts Christopher Bell going to take the win there. So shout out to the YouTube. Shout out to everyone on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review there, whether you like us or not. We want to get the word out there. Shout out to everyone down on 101.5 Talkin' West, Tennessee as well. Gotta love terrestrial radio. But the most important thing you can do to help us out here at In Between Media, if you haven't done it already, give this video a thumbs up, give it a like, and give it a subscribe, not just to the In Between Media main channel, but also to our new Backroad sub channel. If you're that kind of person that you're not too pressed about the football entertainment or the golf, you can just subscribe to the Backroad now and get all the content over there. And of course, everyone can do that the same. I'm sure some of our entertainment bettors maybe not a lot of crossover with NASCAR. But in any case, we appreciate your support here at In Between Media. And I'm sure everyone else is tired of all the plugs. I am too. So let's get to breaking down the Fast Lap news of the week. All right, so the big news of this week, a schedule change for 2026. The Charlotte ROVAL, it's been nixed. It is no longer on the schedule this year for any of the three series. It's Chase race and, of course, it's fall races for the lower series as well, headed back to the Oval. Chris, I feel like that is great news for all us race fans. Of course, with how good the next gen has run on the Charlotte Oval, it's going to be a great race. Probably bad news for SVG and those folks on his over win total, but good news probably for the rest of us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, as a NASCAR fan, I'm glad the ROVAL's gone. The ROVAL, it was fun, I would say, like the first year or two, right? But the Oval has been amazing in the next gen era, and we had to have it back, regardless of the chase, the playoff, whatever we had, right? Like, it was being that late in the year, we deserve to have that great intermediate race in NASCAR's backyard, right? Like, I mean, this should be the race everyone wants to go to. I actually have a little bit funny story about this. I've actually went to the ROVAL the last 2 or 3 years, and I only went because they would do like a blood drive where you could go and you get a free ticket to go. This past year, I didn't do that though, and they sent me a survey asking me why I didn't want to go, and I sent a survey back saying, as soon as you guys get rid of the ROVAL, I'll be back. Hey, it worked. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited that they have the Oval back. I am one of those people who went and ran and got SVGs under as soon as I saw this news. Because I truthfully, man, I'm pretty high on Connor Zilic this year. So I think that all he needs to do is take one away from SVG for that under to cash. So yeah, excited all around.
The over underline, was it 3.5 or 4.5? It was definitely 3.5. Yeah. So now we have, was it 6 down to 5 road courses, 5 down to 4 road courses? This is stuff. But yeah, so literally SVG would have to be perfect. That's what I thought. And yeah, it's Connor Zilic, a guy who, I'm a little lower than the rest, but definitely within the realm of possibility to see him taking one of the other road courses. They still haven't put that number back up. Hopefully within the next week or so before Daytona, we can get on some more season-long markets. That'll be a lot of fun to talk about those next week. But yeah, something that, again, when the ROVAL first started, really good first race, at least a really wild finish there with Ryan Blaney getting the win after MTJ and Jimmy Jam got into each other there. But yeah, the next gen, the road course racing, not quite as good. There are other road courses that honestly do a better job than taking away that Charlotte race. And I'm glad that they came to this decision and didn't wait any longer, because this will be a heck of a race in that Chase 2 could really have some big-time implications across all the series when we get there. But either way, pretty sure it's not going to be dominated by one driver, and pretty sure it'll be a better show. What's going to be a really good show as well, the Daytona truck race continues to stack really good entries. Corey Lajoie is going to be in the Henderson number 75. Parker Kligerman has driven that truck a lot in recent years. Won that race last year, failed the post-race inspection on a technicality, but this is the truck that won the race last year across the start-finish line initially. John Hunter Nemechek is also going to run this race in the Friesen number 62 truck. Fairly competitive team, competitive enough driver, and this just adds to the latest additions to that stacked Daytona truck field. Tony Stewart in one of the colleague trucks, Travis Pastrana and Ricky Stenhouse going to be out there in Nice equipment. Michael McDowell's back in the Spire. It's going to be a fun race to watch. That's no question. Do any of these guys, do you think they can pull out a win here? Are they going to be worth looking at an outright here in a couple of weeks?
I mean, I think it's wide open. Yeah, for sure. I mean, the truck series, you never really know, right? I wouldn't say we have like true super speedway aces, in the truck series. Like, it's not like there's a guy that scares you like a Blaney would in the like a Blaney or Logano in the Cup series, right? So 100%, like a lot of times you see, Kyle Busch is an example, right? I wouldn't even say he's the best plate racer out there. He's good, but he's not the best, but he goes down the trucks and he's just on another level when he's on the track with those guys. So McDowell, I think for sure needs to have a look. Stenhouse too. Yeah. I mean, Lajoie in his own right is not bad. So yeah, I think this is a lot of fun. Like you said, I would advise people to just have fun with this truck race. Like, don't go crazy, obviously, but don't bet anything short. Bet some of these longer shots.
Yeah, I think I was on the McDowell outright last year, somewhere around 10-1 or 12-1. Really thought it'd be a better performance from McDowell in the 07. We learned throughout the year that Spire in that 07 in particular was not quite as good. So McDowell going to be someone to watch. And you're right, if there is a super speedway ace, it may as well be Corey Lajoie. I mean, he ran really well in that latter third of the truck season last year. Decided to turn down the full-time rides in the lower series, but going to try to pick up a win at Daytona in two different series. Of course, he'll be in the Roush 99 on the Cup side if he can make the race. We talked about the Daytona open entry list. Jimmy Johnson's locked in. Corey Lajoie will not be, but he'll hope to get in there. Checking in with a couple of comments. Blaze Wolf here. I love the Charlotte Oval. We got Dee down at the Lake House saying hello. And the super sticker, always appreciated. Thank you very much. Helps us a lot with everything we do here at In Between. We're going to have to start getting race plans together for at least our Pocono weekend, if not a little more. So again, the fun just continues. The ROVAL's out. Truck race is going to be insane and probably still won by Corey Heim somehow, even though he's not going to be in the race. And some kind of in the weeds fun. You're a numbers guy. Some numbers came out on owner points transfers. This used to be much more important on the Cup side before the charter system, when it would be, hey, your top 35 are locked in, and then you got to qualify in on speed. At the start of a new season, it would take 5 races to get those points in. It's less important in the Cup Series now. The only thing that really matters is reflecting that the 60 charter with Ryan Preece was, of course, being leased from Rick Ware Racing. They swapped those charters. One of them is going to end up at Legacy eventually. So the 60 will have the 51 Cody Ware's points, the 51 of the 60's points, but it doesn't really matter all that much. Maybe the biggest that'll matter is in the placement groups of the practice groups for the Clash this weekend, as we'll talk about. It matters a little more in the O'Reilly series and the Truck series. The biggest one that's kind of interesting here, Richard Chodas Racing, Jesse Love, they won the Drivers' Championship, were P5 in the Owners' Championship. They sold their 5th place owner points to the number 30 team, Barrett Cope Racing, Carson Ware, going to be in that car at Daytona. It's a neat little money-making move, honestly, Chris, from Richard Childress, because Love would be locked in anyway with the past champs provisional. Really interesting to see a team, though. You would think maybe someone trying to be a little more competitive would grab this, but Barrett Cope, Carson Ware are going to be locked into Daytona and those first few races that they enter.
Yeah, that's super cool. I mean, I actually didn't even know about this news, so this is news to me too. But this is cool. You like to see kind of stuff like this happen, right? Because it's just giving other people the opportunity that maybe wouldn't have had. Which I know that's probably from a gambling landscape. Who cares really? Because we're probably not going to be betting on these guys. But at the same time, right? You got to think with a little guy sometimes. So I like this. This is a cool move.
Yeah, it's a neat move to get them locked in, and it could affect things down the board a little bit. That's maybe the most important one. A couple other notes on the O'Reilly side. Colleagues points went to Young's Motorsports for one of them, and to the Sam Hunt number 24, Harrison Burton for the other. They also register some new teams out there. Sam Hunt registered a number 84. That could be the car number Corey Heim runs in. We're, of course, not sure there yet. On terms of the O'Reilly side, he confirmed his Daytona 500 entry this year and being in multiple races with 2311. JGR also claiming the number 11 back on the O'Reilly side. Sometimes that means nothing, though. Spire registered an 07 on the Cup side last year, never ran it. Gave us some brief hopes at a Jack Daniels throwback there, but didn't end up happening. On the truck side, the interesting one that I wanted to mention, Stuart Friesen not only going to be back in the truck full-time just a few months after a very terrible injury that knocked out his championship chances, gave Caden Honeycutt a run to the championship four. He's betting on himself. Of course, that second team, the number 62, with John Hunter Nemechek in at Daytona, going to run, I'm assuming, full-time with different drivers now, because his third-place owner points, he gave it to the 62 truck and is taking P36 for himself. First of all, Chris, it's awesome to see Friesen going to be back in the truck. Hopefully his health and his, skills can, still be on top of it after that, wild injury. Glad to see him back and okay. Do you think that it's going to be a risk, though, that maybe something rough happens and he ends up missing one of these truck races?
I mean, I think that's kind of implied, right? This is a sport where anything can happen at any point. Plus, we know that Stewart does a lot of stuff at dirt tracks during the week as well. I'll be curious to see if he cuts any of that back just to avoid any injury. But clearly, it shows how passionate he is, right? Like, he doesn't care. He's like, I love this enough that I want to go out and keep competing. Like, I'm not ready to retire yet. So, sure, I think there's always that worry, but clearly he's committed to putting on a good year and seeing what he can do.
Yeah, and he still has a heck of a lot of faith in his skills too. Why wouldn't you? I mean, last year was probably his best year in 5 or 6 years, was able to win a race for the first time since 2022, and going to hope to continue to get right back on track there. The Colleague trucks, of course, they're all going to be locked in anyway because of the new OEM provisional that would add additional slots to the field. But they did also lock in some decent earner points. Butterbean's truck got the P11 from the Spire 77 that ran last year. Justin Haley, P24 in the owner points. Daniel Dye got P29. The number 14, which is running in that the Ram race for the seat or whatever. We have some mini ideas on who might be in that truck, but that'll be lower in the points as well. And the 25 has none. But like I said, the OEM is going to guarantee them in. They're not going to let Tony Stewart or any of these other Rams miss this race. But yeah, they're still running out. Have you watched any of that Colleague show? It was on Fox. Now they're doing the rest of it on YouTube. I've heard Chris Rice maybe didn't look the best, but something cool that I'm glad they were able to do and hopefully get some new eyes on the sport and give us a look at a little fun competition like this.
Yeah, no, I've already watched both episodes. I was pumped for this show. Truth be told, I'm a little bit of a reality junkie outside of sports. I love reality TV. I call it my trash TV. It's my TV that I can watch and just kind of like, you have to think, right? It's just kind of like on in the background. This kind of gives that feel to it a little bit. Like, it kind of has like a little bit of a reality feel. I think it's because Dana White, I think, is behind, like, his production team is behind it. Mm-hmm. So I think they're trying to make it more dramatized than it really is. I've enjoyed it though. I think it's been a lot of fun. They don't, even though I'm comparing it to a reality show, they're not showing a lot of reality or drama, right? They're spending a lot of time actually, like, they showed the full races every single time so far, which is cool. So you get to see all the passes, all the drama, all the build up. I do know the scene they're talking about with Chris Rice.
Do you think Tanner Reif is really on his you-know-what list, or you think it was straight up for the TV?
I mean, he seems serious. I mean, I don't know if he was building it up a little bit. He seems like a guy that can get a little hot like that, but it was funny watching it because he wasn't wrong. Like, those cars were the best, but you probably shouldn't just come out and say it like that. So I don't blame Chris Rice for getting mad either. I don't know. I thought it was great TV. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to catch up with it now that it has a nice little ringing endorsement. Something that, yeah, like you said, even if it's just good background TV, I've got some time for some background TV. I could certainly put it on. Going to be exciting to see, of course, how that plays out. If you don't know who won it, you'll get to see on the show. It has, of course, been spoiled out there, but we're not going to do that again to you. We are going to start to break down the bets here. But first, we got to break down everything there is to know about Bowman Gray Stadium in our Horizon forecast. All right, so first we will start off with our entry list, as has become tradition ever since we don't run through every single car in the tire tiers. We were talking about that before, more focused on the betting than the DFS now. Lots of great DFS content out there. In any case, the entry list, all 36 of your chartered cars, they have to run this race. They don't have a choice. So they're all going to be there at Bowman Gray. Two open cars as well. The number 50, Burt Myers, local legend there at Bowman Gray, back for another shot at it in the 50. Unfortunately, we couldn't get Tim Brown back in there either. He was in the second wear car last year. Didn't work out there. Was hoping maybe one of these guys would get a shot in the 6 car. Of course, Brad Keselowski is going to be out. Corey Lajoie substituting for him at the Clash. Hopefully, Brad back for Daytona. Seems like we are headed that way. Chad Fincham also going to run the Garage 66 car and try to make it into the big show as well. Just in case you've tuned out all offseason, not a lot of changes on the Cup side this year. The only driver swap, Justin Haley out of the number 7 for Spire. Daniel Suarez moves from Trackhouse to Spire to take that 7 seat. Connor Zilic full-time in the Cup Series. In the number 88, they are renumbering that 99 team to the 97. I believe it's one of those deals where the 99 team becomes the 88. SVG probably keeps his team. He'll run his number 97. Of course, in the offseason, we talked about those great videos when they revealed their numbers there. Definitely worth the watch if you haven't already. But those are the only changes. Everything pretty much the same. And Chris, honestly, especially from a betting perspective and putting data together, when you don't have a lot of those changes and you kind of know how drivers are doing at these tracks the last couple of years, makes things maybe a little easier to handicap. Yeah.
Yes and no. I'm going to talk about this in the model a little bit. This is one of those models that it's hard because we don't have a true comp, right? We have tracks that are very close, but the ones that are closest are also exhibition races. So it's hard to truly, I don't want to say trust the model, but you gotta factor that in as a variable that the closest comps were exhibition races. The next closest comp we have is Martinsville, but it's a whole quarter mile longer, faster speeds, tighter turns. So, I actually would disagree and say it's a little bit harder because you don't have as much concrete data, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with you. This race is definitely tough, especially because of the fact everyone races a little differently. You're only going to have, half, three-fifths of these guys make the main event. The other half don't race as much. Some years you have good years, some years you have bad years. You can't even really compare it the same to the LA Coliseum just because of so many different variables there, but definitely something we can look at there. The race format, always something to talk about. Going to be the same as it was last year here. It'll start off 3 practice groups. Each group gets 3 sessions. Your fastest lap in final practice sets your heat race qualifying line. Will advance to the feature. And then your last chance qualifier, 75 laps. The top 2 will advance to the feature from that. Your 23rd and final spot in the race goes to the highest driver from the 2025 points not already qualified for it. We saw this last year with Ryan Blaney. Didn't have a great heat race. Knew that he was going to be the driver locked in. Pulled off the track after about a third of that LCQ, knowing that he would be locked in. The big show, a 200-lap race, timed halfway break. Only the green flag laps count. Like I said, the race must finish under green. Hopefully not an all-star race situation from a couple years ago where Blaney's window nets down and he's got to hold it up in a green-white checkered there. In any case, fun little weekend. There's still part of me, Chris, that kind of, reminisces on the clashes at Daytona. It's just before qualifying. It's the pole winners that are in it, and they run like X laps and Y laps and all that sort of stuff. But it's definitely a little more complicated, but it also is fun too. The short track Saturday night mentality that this has. You got the A main, you got the B main. You don't have quite as much alphabet soup as the Chili Bowl, but still was fun to watch last year, and I'm looking forward to it again whenever it's going to run this year.
Yeah, no, I've grown to love this format personally. It makes a lot of fun to see. You can't just go out there unless you're a Blaney, right, or someone like that where you're highest in points. You can't really just go out there and kind of half-ass it, right? You got to give it your all if you want to be in that race, and more importantly, right? And we'll talk about this a little bit later as well, I'm sure, but it's important to do well in those heat races because we've seen how hard it is to pass at these short tracks, and in the Clash specifically. I think we've got a winner from the top 2 rows in 4 years in a row. So it's pretty important to start up front. So you'll definitely see a lot of jockeying to get those first 2 row spots coming in those heat races.
Yeah, I'm not anticipating Kyle Larson to be sandbagging it all because it is crazy. It's a heck of a lot different to start, even if you're 9th, than it is all the way back in 23rd. Really hard to pass. I saw a lot of those heat races looking back at the lineups. Who led? One guy led for all 25 laps, and it was hard to pass otherwise. It'll be fun to watch. The schedule, of course, pending weather for the weekend right now, set up before the Cup stuff. If you have slow racing, you can watch Sportsman Series, Modified Series racing from Bowman Gray Saturday afternoon. The Cup practice starts at 6:10 on Saturdays, but on FS1. 8:30, the heats are supposed to start. Going to be cold even if there isn't precipitation. It was pretty cold last year. Of course, they gave out scarves to everyone walking in. Definitely something that can affect things, as we'll talk about in a few minutes too. Heats again starting at 8:30. Sunday on Fox, Big Fox this time, 6 p.m. the 75-lap last chance qualifier, and at 8 o'clock the 200-lap clash. The Madhouse, going to be a lot of fun. Tracks and the comps, like we talked about a little bit. Quarter mile, super short track. They call it the Madhouse for the reason. Like you were saying, Chris, primary comp is Martinsville. Secondary, you can use the LA Coliseum, but the data is kind of wild, as is the temperature, the weather, and a new left side tire that's going to pair with last year's right sides that were used. Obviously, all that's going to have a factor. Is there kind of a way you can factor that into your handicapping for the week, or it's just going to run on the data and you're kind of used to running it in the cold anyway from last year, and it's not going to be as much of a factor as maybe I'm playing it up to be?
Yeah, I am not even going to pretend to be smart enough to know how to handicap that. I wish I was smart enough to do that. Truthfully, that's the thing about models, right? Is you can trust the numbers all you want, but there's got to be a little bit of the eye test too. You got to take that out of the equation a little bit, and you got to think back, right? Cold weather races, we've seen some extreme tire wear in cold weather races. The fact that this new left side tire, like you said, is supposed to be even more wear than the right side they had last year. For me, my tiebreaker in that scenario are the guys, either the dirt track racers or the veterans, because those are the guys that know how to save their stuff. So to me, right, that's not something I can really factor in the model. But if you're in a tiebreaker situation where you're trying to decide between two guys, keep that in the back of your head, right? Who's going to be able to save these tires and know how to manage? A good example I like to give is I know it's not the same comp, but Bristol. Was that 3 years ago now, where we had that extreme tire wear, and you know, guys like Gibbs just absolutely fly to the front, and then about 20 laps later, Denny and Martin Truex and Joey just went right by him because he just didn't know how to save his stuff. So I hope that comes into play this weekend. I'm glad that they are still messing with this tire and bringing something that wears, because that just makes the racing more fun.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun if we get that extreme tire degradation. Even if it's kind of like last fall at Bristol, you didn't see it quite as crazy, but it was worse than you expected. That race, I mean, Christopher Bell won, but it was probably going to come down to Hocevar and Bowman without a late caution there. So Hocevar may be one of those young guns that maybe in that situation could save the stuff. I feel like at the Madhouse in a non-points event might act a little differently to go for the win there. Of course, last year, one of the things we did was break down specific trends. We'll continue to do that for qualifying in the races in 2026. Tonight, though, of course, without a lot of those trends being the same, this is the second time it's been here. The LA Coliseum kind of runs similarly, yada, yada, yada. We're going to break down and discuss what goes into the model in the shows. Last year, we put that out in an article, gave you a little preview, redirected you to there. At least for tonight, we're going to just break down the model here on the show, not put out that article anymore, and the bets we put out will be the bets we put out on the show. Of course, to get full access to the model, you can join the IBT Racing family. Free tier, you can join the conversation. You can hear us talk about it, you know, when people really start to get a look at it. Just was put in a few hours ago. And of course, you can enter for free into our SVG autograph diecast giveaway over in the racing family, but it is in that paid tier where you get access to not only our full betting cards, entry in a head-to-head matchups contest, but you get to see the full model, full breakdown of it, everything, all those beautiful numbers in front of you on that paid tier, $3.99 a month or $36 for the year. But anyway, your model, I've got the checklist here of everything you've put into this, but give me kind of like an opening statement or things like that about the new additions you've made to the model and kind of how you throw everything together.
Yeah, so I on the flag hunting pod, I've been putting this model together for probably 4 years now. I just pretty much every year just try to take a step back and be like, okay, did this work? Did this not work? What can I add? What can I take away? So the first time you look at this model, you're probably going to be like, holy moly, that is a lot of different, it's paralysis by analysis, right? There's a lot of different things being pulled in here. But to me, I feel like I've got the right data sets that I'm pulling in that I feel like work for me. So, I mean, just to give some background, right? I'm pulling from a bunch of different sources, but I'm mainly looking at, I know we're friends with Ryan I Fancy Race. We get a lot of information from him, total speed, rankings, right? I get a lot of stuff from him, from loop data standpoint as well. I look at driver rating. I look at average finish. I look at loop data, specifically in loop data. I'm looking at like average running position, green flag pass differential, and laps led. I think it's the 3 that I look at. There might be a 4th on there. I like to look at qualifying starting position, especially this week, right? I already kind of alluded to that. I think that's important to bring into a model because in races where you don't see a lot of passing, I think qualifying or starting position is really important, especially in the Cup Series, especially with this next-gen car. So I do have a few factors for that. Yeah, and then I like to bring in different variations, especially this week, right, where you're looking at different types of tracks, right? So Bowman Gray, we've got 1 year of history. That's all we have to go off of it. That's not really correlative, right? We need something else to go off of. So I did bring in, I have 2 different verbiages I use in the model that you'll see. Actually, I guess 3 technically. I have somewhere I'm looking at short tracks, somewhere I'm looking at comp tracks, and then somewhere I'm looking at the class tracks. So short tracks is the very high level, who's good at short tracks in general, right? So even though these aren't direct comps, I'm looking at Bristol, Martinsville, Richmond, North Wilkesboro, Bowman Gray, Iowa, and the LA Coliseum. So much broader range, much more high level. I'm only bringing like a few data sets in for that, just to kind of give that starting set of, hey, who's good at short tracks in general. And then I kind of really break it down a little bit further, pull in more data sets for the comp tracks. So that for me was Martinsville and North Wilkesboro and the LA Coliseum. And then I really kind of wrap it up with bringing in just a few more data sets at the very end for just specifically on the class tracks itself. So the North Wilkesboro's, the LA Coliseums, and the Bowman Gray. That way we're looking at those true comps for that final set of data. So like I said, you're right. I'm starting big. I'm kind of getting smaller as I go to kind of lock in on the guys that really perform at that set of tracks. That's pretty much the gist of it. I know that was probably not as short as you wanted, but the good thing about this is or the cool part, I got to give a lot of thanks to Seth because I pretty much used his layout. If you saw my model 2 weeks ago, my model was a little chaotic. But it worked for me. I didn't ever post it publicly. It was what I just used for my bets. So Seth put this layout together and I just kind of manipulated what he already had, which is cool because it gives us a grade for each driver based on all the data sets that I'm pulling in. So yeah, feel free, like obviously if you're a paid subscriber and you have access to just go play around with this, you can't break it. Like we have it locked down to where you can just play and do what you want and see what you can find. And I'll say the same thing that Seth said when he did this on the Daytona, I think it was the Daytona 500 episode he did a few weeks ago where he was talking about his version of the model. This is all data that's out there. I'm not pulling any data behind any paywalls. This is all data that you could pull. I'm just taking the 2 or 3 hours of work to do it for you. Yeah, do what you want with it. But it's something I trust. But I also, like I kind of mentioned earlier, you trust it to a fault, right? Like you don't want to trust it too much. You still have to use your eye, use your knowledge of the sport, use your knowledge of drivers to kind of make those tiebreakers. Don't just bet fully off of this. Just use this as like your starting point.
The nice thing is, though, the model is so all-encompassing that basically everything you can see with your eye is incorporated in this model somehow. Of course, the model that we used last year was you had those total speed rankings for My Fantasy Race. You had average finishes on the comps as well as the track, mostly in the next-gen era. I do like how this incorporates career in some elements as well, because you do just have guys, it doesn't matter the car, it doesn't matter anything in particular. They're good on a particular track type. So it's nice to incorporate some of that in there, as well as those elements that we had last year. Again, I mean, you mentioned all these when you were discussing it, but the bullet list, driver rating, average finish on short tracks in the next gen, career average finish on short tracks, again, all encompassing, driver ratings at the Clash in the next gen, something else that I don't know if we incorporated it into the model. I feel like the total speed rank, driver ranking kind of were hand in hand, but it is looped into this model here. Average starting position, average finish for both North Wilkesboro and Bowman Gray. I like the North Wilkesboro comp a lot. Previously, the only time we've run there was in this style of race. Of course, it'll get a points race this year, which will only help our North Wilkesboro data in the future. Loop data from all the 2025 short tracks. The loop data, big time thing to look into because it shows you how a driver performed in all kind of eras of the race and whether he was good in this part, where he was in the middle part, if he turned it on late, if he was better at the beginning, all that sort of stuff. Loop data, really important to look at. Average finish, you're qualifying the driver rating at the 2025 comp tracks and short tracks, the ones that you mentioned. Total speed ranking at the short tracks in the next gen, something we'd incorporated previously. 2025 comp tracks driver rating, next gen Clash average running position, another important one as well that's looped into that loop data. So what it did, I've got the top 10 here for you, and we have to start with the first 3 drivers. Joey Logano is your number 1 driver in the model. He's an A- grade, 91%, highest by quite a few points there. Christopher Bell, P2, at an 87%, Chase Elliott P3, 85%. They're really deserving top 3, especially when you look at the closest comps. Logano, winner at the LA Coliseum, winner at North Wilkesboro. Christopher Bell, winner of the most recent All-Star race in North Wilkesboro. If you're incorporating Bristol as a comp, most recent winner there as well. Chase Elliott, winner last year at the Clash. These guys definitely the top 3 in the model. Anything in particular that really stood out other than those race wins, dominant performances that they've had in the past couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, what's funny about this is I try not to look at like odds or other people's rankings before I do this, because I don't want to skew my data to give me what I think. I just want it to tell me what it spits out, right? So what's really cool about this is we always think of Joey in these types of races, short track exhibition events, right, where it's just go out there and have fun. Joey just somehow tends to always find his way to the front. So I was truly glad that he came out. Truthfully, I did not expect him to come out number 1. That was a shock to me when I ran everything together. But I like it because, as we'll talk about later, right, he shows us an incredible value to what the books see. So yeah, these top 3 don't necessarily surprise me. We'll get to some of the other guys lower down that surprised me a little bit, but I think you're right? I think Christopher Bell and Chase Elliott, just outside of the Clash itself, when it comes to short tracks, have become some of the elites at the short tracks. So I think it makes sense for sure.
Yeah, definitely deserving top 3 there. A little further down the board here, P4, Denny Hamlin at an 83%, P5, William Byron, 82%. 6th place is Kyle Larson, 77% as we start to move down the board a bit. I'll throw Ryan Blaney in there, P7 at a 76%. Still some pretty good numbers here. Definitely a bit of a drop-off from those top 3 guys, though.
Blaney's the one that surprised me. I thought Blaney was going to be higher. Truthfully, after I kind of dug into the data after the fact to figure out why he didn't rank so high, it's just the Clash. Something about the Clash for him. He has struggled. So I do pull in a good bit of Clash data. Do with that what you will, right? Again, we spoke on how that's exhibition races. So whatever you think about that. The big thing for Blaney is he never qualifies well. He never, ever qualified. And we've seen 2 straight years where he's had to start in the back and make his way to the front. And he does make his way to the front. I think he's got 2 P2s in a row, I think. Mm-hmm. So Blaney's a guy that I think eye test wise, I think should be higher. But I'm just trusting what the model told me at this point.
Yeah, the numbers must be those other short tracks, something dragging him back there a little bit. Pretty far off of his teammate Logano, but there is just something about these Penske cars and the short tracks. I will say on Logano, I'm glad that non-points races don't count for those season win total over-unders. Those under numbers are looking mighty attractive. That's our topic of conversation for next week. We'll be finalizing all of our season-long bets, and I made a bunch of them today going through and getting the Clash odds as well. So excited to talk about that next week. The bottom of the model here, the bottom of the model's top 10. One thing I would talk about a lot in the article, if you read it last year, was the drop-off. If it was really steep from 1 to 10, it would kind of show you that, okay, the top guys are the top guys, and it's going to kind of be difficult for even guys on the lower end of the top 10 to get up there. And that's kind of how this looks. Ross Chastain is 8th at a 70%, and then the 23-11 duo, Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick, are 68 and 67% respectively. And man, that is a pretty steep drop off in percentages from the top there. Is that necessarily an eliminating factor for these guys, or do you think they might even still have a shot, even kind of at this low of a percentage point, despite the ranking?
I actually do think they still have a shot. I think these are some interesting guys to look at, only because in 2311's case specifically, they always qualify well at short tracks. And we just alluded to, and I just went and verified it, the last 4 winners of the Clash have started in the first 2 rows. We haven't had a winner outside 4th place. So if Bubba or Tyler were to put this on in the first 2 rows, I think they 1,000% have a chance at this. So I'm not counting these guys out.
The important thing about that stat you just brought up too, how the qualifying works, there's 4 heat races, 1, 2, 3, 4. You win your heat race. Basically, it's going to be one of those winners that's going to have the best shot here. Yeah, 23-11 in qualifying has gone well for them. I don't have in front of me how they did in the heat races last year. But, I mean, we've seen Bubba be kind of sporty at North Wilkesboro in the Open a couple of years back. And Reddick, definitely a guy. One thing I'll talk about in a lot of my bets is just having some motivation to go out there and either get your year started well, kick off the rust from 2025. Reddick definitely going to be one of those guys. So there's your model's top 10 for full access. You can go on to the Discord, pay us $3.99 a month and go and dig through everything there. I need to dig through it even a little better. I looked at kind of the base standings based from there. I'm excited to really dig into this. Any other thoughts you want to share on the model before we move forward?
No, I think you did a really good job breaking it down as well. So I appreciate you taking a look at it. The only thing that I didn't touch on that isn't a part of the current model, but will be eventually, I do also like to do what's called a momentum factor. So once we get 6 races in, typically, I might adjust that because we're starting with 2 super speedways. I don't really know if I'll factor that in, but I'll bring in a column that basically I like to call the momentum factor. It's just how they are running coming into that race, right? So that's something I'll add in. I'm also a big qualifying guy. I love qualifying. I always post a Saturday sweat card, I call it. The model has been great for me when it comes to qualifying. So that'll be a big piece that I'm more confident in my qualifying model sometimes than my race model. So I'm excited to share that with the subscribers once we get to that point.
Yeah, I definitely love the momentum factor, especially oftentimes in a lot of my bets. I'll say, hey, I'm working in the what have you done for me lately here, even despite track type maybe not looking well. And yeah, your qualifying stuff, really, really impressive. If I recall correctly, over the last 18 months or so, you guys have hit on some big time qualifying bets. So that'll be really nice to have as part of the In-Between family now as well.
Yeah, we've had some fun ones. We've also had a lot of P2s, which is so just the worst gut check. But the biggest one that I can recall was we hit Ryan Preece at 50 to 1, I think 2 years ago at, I think was it Martinsville or Loudon's, one of those. That one was fun. So that was probably our biggest one.
Yeah, lots of big ones there. And like I said in the intro, we're hoping for some red hot betting cards to help heat up everything at the Clash there. We're about to get to the bets, but first, a couple of things. This year, of course, the iFantasyRace.com Asterisk Mark Driver of the Week will be returning. This is an always important trend, Chris, to monitor performers who were better than their finish showed in the race, whether it was crashing last minute at a super speedway, having a tire blow, getting spun out late in the race, something that's really important to factor into the data and everything you're looking at race to race as well.
Yeah, agreed. Sorry, I was on mute there. Yeah, no, I love Ryan's stuff over iFantasy Race. So yeah, I that's something that I used to always look into. So yeah, I love you guys are touching on this year.
Yeah, it really is one of those things that didn't necessarily need an extra comment there, but wanted to leave the floor open to you. I also want to quickly shout out our partners over at WannaParlay. WannaParlay creates fun and exciting competitions that connect people. They embody the joy of winning, the heartbreak of almost winning, like with those P2 quality bets you were just talking about, and all the other emotions that you'll experience during competition. This comes from the brains of 2 former Kansas State college football players, and it is all about stacking legs, competing with real sport lovers like you and I, and getting real cash wins every day. You can really highly multiply your money, cash out fast. I know you're ready. Are you ready to get in the game and flex those parlay legs? You can download the app for iOS and Android and get a 100% match bonus when you use the code IBT at signup. Code IBT to get a 100% match bonus over at WannaParlay. The link to that in the episode description, just like all the fun that we've got going on. Been a lot of fun so far, but now is what we're all waiting for, laying down those first bets of the 2026 season in the Parking Garage Props. First, man, I want to open the floor, talk about the impressions of the books. I would have liked to have seen, I know it's Wednesday, normally we run Thursday, but we only kind of had odds from 2 or 3 books. There were some that even only had the outrights out there. Again, Daytona, there's plenty of odds. I'm just hoping that things are a little more widespread in the regular season, because the Clash odds, I would have liked a few more offerings for sure.
Yeah, agreed. And not only to have more, but to have them a little bit quicker. I mean, this event is in a few days, and we are still only seeing like limited boards. Yeah, it seems all together. I'm sure you guys talked about this too with season bets too. I mean, I think FanDuel finally released their championship odds like a few days ago, and that's something that some books have had out there for months. So yeah, I wish we had a little bit more, but at the same time, I mean, like I said, it is the Clash. We're all excited to get betted, to get started betting, but there's only so much you can bet on for the Clash, right? Like, it's going to be a little bit of a whitewash to know what's actually going to happen here. So I understand it from their standpoint, but from our side, yeah, I would love to have more.
It is one of those, though, that maybe the books are doing us a favor, that maybe if we had more extended odds, we'd get a little Tuesday half snow race that would not go any of the ways that we're expecting. So maybe we should be thankful to the books for that, especially because, season longs, Daytona 500, all that. you hope you come out on the positive, but there are people in this business that they don't bet on super speedways, and there's a good reason. But anyway, this isn't a super speedway. This is the Madhouse, and we'll start with the outrights. And the first place for me to look was one of those top three in the model that we talked about. Christopher Bell at 9-1 over on Bet365. This, I believe, was plus 925 over on theScore bet. I just laid down my coin too early. So be it. Bet365 was my number one book of last year. If you're bored enough, our Rank the Books episode from a couple of months ago, Seth and I put together our consensus rankings, and Bet365 was my favorite discovery of 2025 in the books, and still a lot of good odds there, including this one, which I'm very okay with a 9-1 for a guy who was P2 in the model, P2 in his heat last year here at Bowman Gray. And honestly, I'm just expecting a really solid start to the year for Bell, Toyota, and JGR. There have been times this offseason where I've been a little bit hands-off on C-Bell, but the more closer we're getting to the season, I feel like he definitely is a guy that could start hot like he did last year, wants to be one of those guys to really put himself in title contention. I feel like the 10-race chase does play into his hands more than the old playoff format, and he came close to a few championships under that old format too. C-Bell also the All-Star race winner last year at North Wilkesboro, so somebody who knows his way around a short track. So I'm at the Chili Bowl even a couple weeks ago too. Man knows his way there. If you get the massive tire wear too, like you were saying, Chris, it's these sort of veterans, the dirt trackers, the guys who know what they're doing with tire wear that could have a big advantage.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I like that you started out here. Christopher Bell is somebody that I always consider, right? Any short track. He's just kind of in the back of our minds. It's that eye test, right? He's the guy that is the dominator on short tracks. My only hesitation with him was the Clash specifically hasn't been his forte. He's the guy that if I took all the Clash stats out of my model, he would have been by far number one. The Clash actually brought him down just that little bit to bring him behind Joey. But again, he is very capable of starting up front. He should be competitive in those heat races. Model aside, right? I do expect him to be the top dog in JGR this year. I just think there's no way Denny can match what he did last year as far as, was it 6-7 wins he had last year. He's coming into this season still heartbroken, it seems like. I mean, between his father, between losing that championship, between the lawsuit, he just seems like he is an emotional wreck. So I think C-Bell is going to be the leader of that stable. I'm really curious to see what he does, but I do like the 9-1 number based on the fact that he's second in the model. I think it's a good starting spot.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how Denny Hamlin, not even necessarily in this race, but those first couple of races, like you said, especially the first two being super speedways, somebody who, his super speedway, ace has kind of gone down in the next gen here. Any thought to maybe, though, Chase Briscoe taking the top spot at JGR? Do you think he has got enough to even surpass Bell as the ringleader there, or not quite yet?
He's not far. He's not far behind for sure. I think what's funny about Briscoe is I feel like he's thriving on a lot of the tracks that I didn't expect him to thrive on. Like he's kind of hitting on the intermediates where he was always good at short tracks before that. So if he all of a sudden recollects that short track dominance that he had when he was with Stuart Haas, he could be a force for sure. The only thing I worry about with Briscoe, right, is in this new format, right, you can't have bad races. And Bell too, honestly. You just can't have those bad races. Briscoe does have flaws to me, like road courses. You're not going to see him up front on road courses. Super speedways, he's never a guy that's up front. So that's the only thing that sets me back on him, where like if this season really favors the guy that are just like the consistent, like the steady eddies, right? And I don't know if Briscoe is that guy.
Yeah, I think the only decent road course race I can remember for him, I think he ran second at Sonoma this year, best in class, 15 seconds behind SVG or whatever. But yeah, somebody who I'm not sure about. I don't think we have any Hamlin or Briscoe on our cards here. I got the 2 driver in the model. You've got the 1 driver in the model, Joey Logano.
I do, yeah. I mean, it's hard. It's hard when you see a guy ranked number 1 for you and then see him listed at 12-1 to not think that's an incredible value. So yeah, that's where I'm starting my card. I'm taking it pretty light this week as a whole, just because it is the first race of the year. There's a lot of unknowns. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to Joey, in the past 3 years at the Clash, he's finished 1st, 4th, and 4th. He started 4th, 2nd, and 7th. His average running position has been 2.5, 2.5, and 6.9. He's running up front every single Clash race. If you build that out to not only be the Clash, if you look at all short tracks, let's look at specifically last year, right? last year, a lot of people consider that a down year for Joey Logano. He wasn't really competitive on the short tracks, though. He was. Now I understand these are not direct comps to Bowman Gray, but again, I like to look at who's good at short tracks in general. When you look at Martinsville, Loudon, Iowa, I am bringing North Wilkesboro into this, and then Richmond, those finishes for him last year: 8th, 4th, 9th, 2nd, 8th, and 4th. Top 10 every single short track. So that mixed with his class success, mixed with the fact that he just tends to thrive in these like exhibition money events at 12-1 start out the year. Also more aerodynamic, being bald, that's got to help, right? So yeah, I'm really excited to I'm truthfully, I'm not a big Joey fan, but I would love for him to make me some money to start out the year. That could change my fandom real quick.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Hey, I'm not a big Logano fan either. There have been some rough Logano memories. A certain fall 2015 day at Talladega, I was not a big Logano fan, but I had a championship ticket on him in 24, and I was cheering for him like I've been a fan of him my whole life. So 12-1 for the number one driver, the only guy to hit above 90% in the model. I like that a lot too. And it's almost a contrast here between a Bell and a Logano, to where Logano's the kind of guy, he gets up for these things, these exhibition races, the go out there and have fun. I feel like Joey really plays into that wheelhouse. While you have your, maybe your Bells and Larsons, they're the guys over a full 36 that you probably like the best to win the most, but it feels like they kind of take it easy in these sort of events. I mean, Larson's, they're both past all-star winners, so you can't say that entirely, but the Clash data has really showed that. Logano, probably the best in the Clash than most of those other short tracks, while Bell, it's the Clash that brings him down, takes him from that number one spot. But either way, a 9-1 and a 12-1 in this event for the top two in the model. Definitely some good numbers. My other outright, just a little sprinkle. My card's a little light too this week. Again, limited offerings, knowing that there's plenty of season long and knowing I've still got a lot of Daytona bets to make that hopefully don't crash and burn just as much as half the cars will down there. Little sprinkle on a 30-1 for Josh Berry over on theScore bet, formerly ESPN Bet. Short track guy. I mean, I'm still playing from that years and years ago since he's run, the weekly series and all that, but short track guy. He didn't end the year like he wanted to, flamed out in the round of 16 after getting that win, but also he kind of did end the year with some momentum. P2 at New Hampshire, coming back from that spin and almost win, where if Blaney wasn't just as otherworldly as Berry, you might be talking about Berry pulling a second Cup win in 2025. Like I said, it's much more a vibes bet than a numbers bet. He was P2 in last year's last chance qualifier, but that's without the top, 15 or 20 cars in the field. They're already locked in, so you're not necessarily racing against them. I guess Larson beat him, so he's one of the best. But in any case, the other numbers, short track comp number, Clash numbers, especially in the Clash, not even making the feature in the year before that, they don't quite look as well. But again, Penske on those short tracks, Josh Berry on a short track, the vibes of the old school Wood brothers at Bowman Gray, it's worth a little sprinkle of a couple of cents on a 30-1 in my opinion.
Yeah. I'm going to touch on Josh in a little bit when we get to the matchups as well. Man, Josh is a tough one for me. I've always been a Josh guy where when it comes to a short track, he's one of my first looks. I want to see how he ranks. You're not wrong in the fact that he is a short track ace. That's where he came from. I mean, looking at his finishes from the last 2 years, I mean, 2nd at New Hampshire, 3rd at New Hampshire, 7th at Iowa, 8th at Richmond, 10th at Martinsville, 11th at Richmond. So a lot of top 10 finishes. What it really came down for me though, was the more specific contracts. So the Clash itself, and then Martinsville being the closest. His most recent Martinsville races have been 16th, 25th, and 33rd. That's a little scary. But for 30-1, it's a sprinkle, right? But when we talk about a matchup, that's where I kind of flip the other way.
Yeah, and hey, I won't mind at all who you pick in that matchup, as we'll talk about. Those are our outrights. In the placement props, top threes are the only market out there. I guess I already revealed your pick there, 2-1. Before we talk about Blaney as a bet, I feel like Mustache Blaney definitely has some. You talk about bald Logano, Mustache Blaney. We just need that Austin Cindric picture with him in the hat of like I love hot moms or something. And Penske's the ultimate vibe squad for this year.
Yeah. It's. I saw someone tweet earlier that the hair that Joey Logano shaved off, Ryan Blaney picked it up and put it on his staff. That's kind of what it looks like, because it's that thing is bushy.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so Blaney is my top 3 pick. I don't know that 2-1 can be found anymore. This is probably a little bit of a stale number at this point.
Right. I put in there as a note that it was 2-1 earlier. I went back and looked right after you put it in the sheet to make the graphics a couple hours ago. It was down to +170. So people definitely like Blaney and liked that number enough to where it's unfortunately not out there anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I'm still comfortable at plus 170. Obviously, I prefer the 2-to-1, but plus 170, I'm still comfortable just because I think, just like we talked about with, well, I mean, with everyone talked about so far, but similar to Bell, like Blaney's becoming that like elite short track guy, especially on a Martinsville, which is my primary comp outside of the exhibition races. When we're talking about points paying races, you can't really talk about anybody else outside of Blaney at Martinsville. He's just been absolutely phenomenal. Similar to Joey's rundown, I mean, in the last 2 years, first at Iowa, first at Martinsville, first at New Hampshire, second at the Clash last year, second or third at the Clash the year before that, another second at Martinsville, a third at Richmond, a fourth at Iowa, a fifth at Martinsville. So a lot of top 5 finishes. The big thing for Blaney, and the reason I went top 3 instead of the win, is the last 2 years at the Clash have not been kind to Ryan Blaney when it comes to those heat races. He's found himself in trouble starting from the back. His starting positions in the last 4 years of the Clash are 23rd, 13th, 15th. Those finishes, though, second, third, and the previous 2 years were 17th, 17th. But those were the Coliseum. I'm not really going to factor that in here.
Mm-hmm.
Blaney wasn't hitting his stride at that point. We've seen him hit his stride in the last 2 years. We've seen those top 3 finishes. The fact that he's went from the back to the front in tracks that we don't see a lot of passing on says a lot. Unfortunately, though, I need him to qualify better, to do better in the heat races, because you can't burn your stuff up like that, especially if we're going to have tire wear. He's not a guy that I really trust when it comes to tire wear. So I'm just banking on him getting a better starting position, relying on that short track premise that he's always had, and locking in the top 3 for us.
Yeah, and that exact reason is what gave me pause with Blaney as well. Literally the last 2 years, starting shotgun on the field and half rear ending running that Clash. I think even the year before, I don't even know that he ran it because he knew he was locked in anyway as the champion from 23 into 24. He just needs to qualify better, because you're right, 23rd to 2nd, it'll catch his top 3, but that is a heck of a lot of effort to get up there, and certainly not guaranteed, especially at a place like the Madhouse where you can see some crazy things happen. But yeah, there's a very good chance we could see Blaney finally get his head out of his rear end, run up front in these heat races, lock himself in even potentially to one of those front 2 rows where we've seen all of our Clash winners come from since it's been inside a football stadium, so to speak. My top 3 bet, a little more of a long shot, a 5-1 on Ross Chastain. We love a good Busch Light on this program, and I don't know if it's a Busch car that's going to be running, but in any case, Ross Chastain, the Busch guy. Last time Seth and I talked about standings, I kind of sort of almost talked myself into a Chastain top 3 bet in the standings at 10-1. That was definitely a little crazy. I've talked myself out of that at this point. I do go like this top 3 number for Chastain. Could be a little more likely. 6th place in the Clash last year, finished P3 in the All-Star race, was mixing it up in there at the end. And I feel like this is a great opportunity. There are a few of these drivers that their driving style and the way that we know they can handle themselves fits in perfectly to the Madhouse. Chastain, a guy, of course, great run at the Coke 600 last year. Not that much to write home about otherwise. So Ross, one of those guys, I think in a non-points race, I want to see a little more of that no-holds-barred Ross that'll go in there and play into that Madhouse strategy there. I think that'll help him run faster. I think it'll help him win more. And this is the perfect opportunity to at least put that mask back on and see how it works, even if you kind of stay hands-off in the regular season. I want to see more of that Ross, and I feel like Ross needs to see more of that Ross to run as well as he did those first couple of years in the next gen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think more than ever, I think Ross needs to come out firing quick, because, I mean, for all intents and purposes, he's not the man of the hour for Trackhouse anymore. I mean, you've got Connor and SVG under that roof. Yeah, which is a crazy world when 2 years ago he was the guy, and he was the watermelon man. You saw shirts everywhere for him at the track. I mean, he was really the guy, and now he's not. But he still needs to show what he, like you said, he needs to show what he did, but he needs to also bring that back at the tracks that he's been strongest at. Unfortunately for him, those tracks tend to be like the intermediates or the high banks short tracks, not necessarily the flat shorts. But a guy that, again, ranked 8th for me, right behind Blaney. So, he's right there in the mix. Has a really good history at Martinsville. Not necessarily the Clash, but he's right there top. He's like 6th and 8th, I think, the last 2 years. For a long shot, 5-1 for a guy that also tends to be a guy that Trackhouse runs a lot of race trim when it comes to qualifying. I know we don't have a true qualifying, but you pretty much know what you have with Ross pretty quick. So if he's fast in those heat races, you've hit on some big value here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And definitely a chance to come out there because they've definitely fixed up the problems that they had where Trackhouse would be at the bottom of the board every single practice and qualifying and have to race their way up. Something that is not going to be as much of a problem. We got Hunter checking in here in the chat, hoping Larson wins will be tight. Isn't Bowman Gray the cluster? I think I know what you meant, the cluster, you know what, small track. Yeah, as we talked about a few minutes ago, they call it the Madhouse, quarter mile, ultra short track. And yeah, it can be kind of a cluster sometimes.
Yeah, it's actually right here behind me too. I have a little visual behind me. But yeah, it's only a quarter mile. So real small track. Hopefully we have tire wear. That'll make it more interesting. But yeah, and when it's an exhibition race, when there's money on the line, you hopefully see some bumping. So that's what we always hope for at a race like this.
Yep, that's what we want on a short track Saturday night. Hopefully a Saturday night, or I guess a Sunday night, and not a Tuesday afternoon. Hopefully the weather cooperates. Definitely a chance for some winter weather down there. But whenever it does run, we've also got some matchups out there, and we've got one that we're going to debate here on either side. I'm going Ty Gibbs over Chris Buescher, -110 over at Caesars. Again, kind of more vibes bet. You'll talk about the numbers of why Buescher might be a little better here. I'm going with Ty Gibbs because we have seen him have some really solid runs on this track type. A couple of times we've seen him run up front for most of a clash. Nearly won one of these things in LA a couple of years back. Place like Bristol too, at least on the early side of tire wear. A guy who can go out there, lead a whole bunch of laps. Bristol, of course, more banked. I probably look at Bristol as more of a comp than you should. It's more of a similar shape of track, even without the banking, than a place like Martinsville, half-mile paperclip. Nice and long compared to the more compact Bowman Gray. Anyway, like I said, did really well in LA, really well at Bristol. And another one of those guys, we're going on years and years now, still hasn't won that first cup race. I don't want to see moves like he did to Brandon Jones at Martinsville and Xfinity, but another guy who we can maybe see a little more aggression out of, maybe helps you speed up and gets him kind of out of that, 4th out of 4 hole at JGR that he's very clearly in.
Yeah, I struggle with Ty because I feel like every time I trust him, he burns me. So yeah, I mean, I'll talk about the other side of this in a minute, but Ty is a guy that theoretically should be good on the short tracks. He just hasn't quite showed it to the level that I would expect. And then now being, very much the 4th guy in the GGR camp. Yeah, I just don't know. I never know what to really think about Ty. He's just burned me too many times. Maybe that's just too much bias. But, for the model for me, he ranked out, decent, I guess. But Buescher was obviously ranked higher for me.
Yeah, Buescher, more of a numbers pick here, which is why you're on the other side, -120. So he is the favorite, and probably for good reason. It probably still sticks in my mind a little too much. 2022 and 23 out in LA, where the Roush cars just looked really, really bad. But when I looked into Buescher's numbers a little more, they're better than I thought they would be over the last couple of years.
Yeah. Well, he did make the show last year. Started 2nd, finished 10th. Don't love to see that he fell. But he was clearly there. He had an average running position of 4th in the class specifically. I don't use Bristol as a primary comp, but if I'm going to poke a hole in your argument, Buescher's a previous Bristol winner. So Buescher has that going for him. He's also a previous Richmond winner as well, which I do look at as a little bit more of a comp than I do Bristol. But yeah, for me, he's kind of like the steady Eddie, I guess I would say. I know I've used that term twice now, but when it comes to short tracks, he's a guy that I can trust to finish like 8th to 12th, and he's not going to ruin his day. That's all I need, I feel like, because I don't feel like Ty is a guy that's going to shoot himself in the foot. He's a guy that I've seen on a high tire wear track not be able to save his stuff and not be able to make it to the end of the race. So I think I just trust Chris a little bit more. I do like the fact that they have Priest in their stable now too. I think that's bringing a little bit more short track tenacity to their stable, right? So yeah, I like the other side of this just because I trust Chris to get to the finish line more than I do Ty.
Yeah, the term steady Eddie really works here. You very well could see with this matchup, Ty Gibbs runs 10 positions ahead of Buescher all day, blows out a tire with 10 to go, and then this side of the matchup hits. So I can't blame you at all there. You mentioned about Priest being at RFK. I want to pick your brain on another kind of season-long thought here. We didn't see any of those Roush Fenway Keselowski cars win a race last year, but we saw Brad run top 10 more often than not on the second half of the year. And we saw some really good runs, and we saw Buescher and Priest get closer than maybe we thought to some wins at some other tracks. But do you see them getting back in victory lane? Maybe multiple of these guys getting in victory lane this year? Or are we thinking another, really tough to win year for RFK?
It's a curious argument. I don't think Kez is going to be back. If Kez wins a race, it's going to be at Super Speedway. I don't see him pulling off another Darlington miracle. And apparently he wants to race for like 10 more years, which is wild to me.
I was almost in my, when I love to put on that tinfoil hat, put the puzzle pieces together for silly season. I was kind of anticipating Brad out in a year to 3 years, but I think it was something to do with like the consecutive starts record or something with starts where he's like, oh yeah, I only need about 8 more years to get here. I bet I can do it. So I hope Brad doesn't race for 8 more years. It's going to get pretty bad. But anyway.
Yeah. I don't know that I feel strong enough that anybody gets to victory lane necessarily. I still view Buescher as the primary in that stable just because he doesn't have a weakness, really. I mean, he's decent at short tracks. He's good, I would say, at intermediates. He's very good at super speedways, and he's a top 10 guy, top 10 machine at road courses. You can't really say the same for Brad and Priest when it comes to the full schedule. So yeah, Buescher is a guy that I really like. I'm not a big like DFS guy necessarily, but I do like playing what am I trying to say? The atop the pit box where you kind of like draft a lineup for the full year or whatever. I like a guy like Buescher in that scenario, right? Because he's never going to burn you. He's gonna be right down the middle, right? Like a single down the middle every single week, and that's all you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, honestly, out of that RFK stable, I think maybe Priest might have the most upside to win if he doesn't end up, a mile in the air at Daytona like he has it a couple times in the past. But Buescher, one of those jack of all trades, master of none, kind of like the guy you have over Josh Berry in your other matchup.
Yeah. So this one, I'll admit, I don't see it listed anywhere. I don't know what happened to it. It was there earlier today, I promise. I didn't actually bet it, but it was one that I was looking at. So if it pops back up, I do like the Bowman side here, which I know Elliot's probably going to, disagree from a betting standpoint, but maybe not from a fan standpoint. But yeah, I mean, this one was purely based on the model itself. Alex Bowman ranked, I think, 12th for me, 11th for me. And Josh Berry was at 19, so it was the biggest discrepancy across my model. One thing I failed to talk about when I do also put together the model, one of the background things that I look at is comparing where guys rank to me versus where the books have them. Bowman and Logano showed up as the 2 biggest value bets. I just don't know that I trust Bowman to actually win. So I tried to find a way to find another market for him. And this is the one that I found where, again, another guy that just should be able to finish right down the middle, right? Like I think he's a guy that easily could finish 6th to 9th. It's funny, we haven't really talked about Chevy tonight. We've talked a lot about Ford and Toyota. We haven't talked about a Chevy yet. They're coming out with a brand new body, so we don't know how that's going to respond. Shouldn't really matter this week. That'll be more when we get to some more aerodynamic tracks or tracks that rely on air. But still, it's a brand new body. We don't know what to expect. Yeah, I mean, and Bowman's not necessarily a big short track presence necessarily, where Josh Berry is, but Bowman's also not going to be a guy that's going to do something stupid and end up in the back. So that's kind of where I leaned on this one.
Yeah, the numbers, surprisingly, I mean, to my personal eye test, looking at the numbers, Bowman, not really a guy you'd want to look at. And last year at the Clash, scraped by in the heat race, ran, toward the back most of the day, ended up, somewhere 19th or something like that. Not very good, but was weirdly good in LA, had a couple of good runs out there, and was, I think, P4 in the All-Star race last year. So maybe starting to pick up on these short tracks. The Chevrolet body does kind of scare me, but again, it's not going to be much of a factor at Bowman Gray. Could be better rather than worse. And with the 48 team specifically, it's starting to come out that other than driver Alex Bowman, crew chief Blake Harris, spotter Kevin Hamlin, essentially everybody else on that team is new. They grabbed an engineer from the 9 car to be the car chief, grabbed a guy from Colleague to be on that mechanic team as well, and promoting some guys from within. And it's needed. I mean, Alex Bowman, a guy who has not won on an oval since 2022, has gone 2 of the last 3 years not winning a race for Hendrick Motorsports. I appreciate that they gave the guy a shot. They're giving them, they're changing around, doing some things. Last year, especially in the playoffs, the team was dysfunctional. The pit crew did not work. They had to switch pit crews for that last Bristol race to give him a Hail Mary shot. But they're going pretty much all new this year. They are going to go out swinging. Bowman and the crew, if they're going to go out, they're going to go out swinging from this 48 car. One other comment here that I've got, Hunter making a good point, waiting till after the heat races to start to bet, because if you're not in the top 20, you don't really have a shot. The only thing that I would advise maybe against that is, and I didn't pay attention to this last year, so I'm not 100% certain on this. I was out of state last year. You normally can't bet in one state from another. But in any case, I don't know how many other odds came up last year outside of maybe just an outright. I don't know if between the evening heat races and the next evening's race, if they put out full markets again. Maybe somebody in the comments would know, or maybe you remember, Chris. But that's the only thing I would advise against, is you may only get an outright shot if you wait till after the heat races.
Yeah, I think outright she should be okay. But yeah, head-to-head, I can't remember if they came back up. But I do know, I mean, Hunter, you're all over it with the fact that, like we talked about earlier in the show, where, right, the past 4 winners have started in the front 2 rows. Blaney's been the only guy who's been able to pass. We're hoping that Tyler makes a difference this year, because we are bringing a tire that's supposed to wear more than the one last year, so that could bring more passing into play. Yeah, I do know that from an outright perspective, the books are all over that, and they slash the odds. So a guy like Chase Elliott last year, I think he opened at like 8-10 to 1, and then he closed at like 2 to 1 after the heat races. So I do advise maybe taking some longer shot light plays, right, like some sprinkles beforehand, just because if you're waiting specifically to get a guy towards the front, you're not going to get great odds on it.
And the weather too. I mean, if this gets delayed a couple of days, they could cram the whole thing into a one-day show, in which case you are definitely not going to get odds in between the last heat.
That's a good point.
I really would not imagine, especially if it's delayed to a Wednesday evening or something like that, that you're going to get that. But I don't blame you at all. It's definitely good to watch, Hunter, on how those heat races go. But I agree. Throw a couple of sprinkles down. Take some blind faith. I know we've got all the numbers in the world. If you're not in the Discord, take those couple of bucks, join in, and you can spend the next day and a half digging through that model and finding your best chances here, because I do really think it's solid. We've got one more bet tonight, and it's an opinion that we both share, that the even number bet over on Caesars, plus 105, it's the underdog. And they have a lot of guys that we both like here. We talked about Bell and Blaney as our top 2 outrights, or Blaney was the top 3. You get Logano too, the other outright we talked about. Those are all even numbers. You get William Byron in that as well. Those are all guys, all 4 of them, very easily could win this race, among the favorites to win this race. You also get a few potential upsets here. Austin Cindric, Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman, Ty Gibbs, Ryan Preece, all guys that if things fall the right way, they have a shot. And you get the 88. If you think Connor Zilic is going to go out there, shock the world, win the Clash, you get him in this bet as well. This is technically the first time, and maybe the only time for a while, that I'm going to put any money on anything involving Connor Zilic on the Cup side. But definitely a lot of upside here. You don't get your Larson, you don't get your Chase, you don't get your Denny Hamlin. There's a couple big guys that you miss out on here. Josh Berry, I have a little outright sprinkle on. You don't get him in this, but I do think that you get the best drivers on the even number side of this bet, and you agree with me.
I do. Yeah, I absolutely do. And mainly it truly came down to my model specifically, right, where not only do we get the top 2 guys, but we get 3 of the top 5 and 4 of the top 7. So to me, that kind of swayed me towards that. I will say though, like if you want to do kind of like the full tank fill strategy here, where you place your outrights, like your longer numbers on the odd, and then you take the even, whatever way you want to do that, right? That can be kind of like your hedge play. But I do tend to like the even better, just because we don't know. I mean, like Denny Hamlin is one of those guys he's ranked in the top 5, but we just talked about how the unknowns come into the season. Do we really feel that strongly that Denny's really going to care about the Clash, right? This is going to probably be a race he's going to be wiping the dust off. Chases, I think, I think Chase and Larson are obviously threats, but again, we don't know what that Hendrick camp's going to look like. They're not ones that really come out swinging quick typically. And then, Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick are the only guys that I didn't mention that are odds. I expect them to start towards the front. Do I expect them to get past the finish line first? No, I don't.
Yeah, man, maybe I should have gone with the Phil strategy there, taking the odd side of this, which it was probably minus 115, something like that. It wasn't a very large discrepancy. There's also the markets of winning car number that, it was like 9 to 18, and then another one in the middle there. The odds just weren't any good there, but this is the special that I like for the week. And I do like a lot of the bets that we picked out here for the Clash. Again, fingers crossed that everything works out with the weather. And we do run this Saturday and Sunday, not have to worry about that. Before we go, I want to tell everyone one last time, the IBT Racing family is the place to be. If you like our stuff, if you're going to make the most money this season, you're going to want access to this model. So, of course, for free, you can join the conversation with, of course, all of us. Chris, you're in there now. I'm excited to see you chopping it up with myself, with Seth, with Ryan for my fantasy race, with Rod Villagomez, and everyone else that we've got there in the chat. Free entry into our memorabilia giveaways as well. Autographed diecast giveaway for Daytona. Shane Van Gisbergen autographed 2024 WeatherTech number 16 Chevrolet. Going to be giving that away around Daytona. Also, that $3.99 fee gets you into the IBT football family. You can get some Super Bowl plays. IBT Entertainment family, big time things starting up with the Survivor 50 contest there, and the golf family. I saw some news swirling around today. I'm not a huge golf guy, but apparently live in PGA. Some guys leaving the Live Tour, heading back to the PGA Tour. Something that will continue to be exciting to watch on the golf side. So, yeah, the best place to be is in the IBT family. $3.99 a month, $36 for the year. Shout out to everyone for watching. Shout out to you, Chris, for helping back on board. Tell everyone the best ways to support your content other than, of course, everything you're doing now with IBT. Again, so excited to have you on for this year.
Yeah, no, I'm truly excited to just to give a little background. Like I've been doing this model for 3 years, but it's really just been my baby. I've never shared it publicly. So kudos goes out to Seth for reaching out to me and trusting me and wanting me to share it and making me. I told him, I was like, you help me make this pretty, because it was really ugly when it was just mine. So yeah, I'm glad to be able to share this publicly for the first time. But yeah, we're found at @flag_hunting on Twitter, or X, I guess we should call it these days. We unfortunately don't really put out podcasts anymore. That's why we branched and kind of teamed up with IBT here, because it was hard for us with golf and NASCAR to find a schedule that worked for us recording wise. So we're kind of rotational hosts on these shows, but we still put out full betting cards every week. Ian always puts his golf card out typically on like Wednesday mornings before the tournament starts. He also is a big presence over in ROVAL as well. So he does some work over there with them. He does some work over here at IBT Media. And then obviously I'm going to be putting out the model here, jumping on every once in a while. I usually put out like a Saturday sweat card like I talked about for qualifying. I always put out a Sunday morning card for the race. And we track all that at the Action Network. So you can find us at the Action Network as well at @flag_hunting. That way you can kind of see how we're doing and tag along. You can get bets as soon as I bet them, because I will track it as soon as I bet it. So that way you know what I'm on when I'm on it. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all the spaces you can find us, I think. But yeah, I'm truly excited to be a part of this. And I can't give enough thanks to you, Seth and Rod, for having me. Truly, it's going to be a lot of fun this year.
Hey, thanks all comes from us, man. I remember a couple of years ago when you guys would hop on for guest spots or other things we would do. You and Ian always put out super quality content, always super good quality hosts. And yeah, I almost wish we could have you on more often, but I do think you're about the perfect pinch hitter here and definitely the perfect guy to put together this model and improve it for everything. So super stoked to have you guys on board. Of course, everything within Between Media, link in the description. At the very least, give this video a thumbs up, like, and subscribe to not only this channel, but now our sub channel, The Backroad, where everything else will live. Thanks everyone for rolling on down the Backroad with us. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week. We've got an episode where we are going to break down our season-long best bets on the Cup side. Hopefully a few more markets, even though, man, I have them written down on a sheet over here. I've got plenty of season-long bets in it, but I'm going to add a couple of more. And then after that, we got the Daytona 500. The off-season's done. I'm calling it done. We're going to have 1 week in between. Off-season's over. We are full steam ahead for 2026. Thanks for rolling down the Backroad, and we'll see you again next time.